fun, Julie.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Be careful.
Jeanne voulait parler. I couldn't face my uncle after what happened, and they seemed to be at our house more than ever. I felt confused.
It wasn't until 2 weeks after the accident that I was well enough to tell the police what happened. I remember some guy yelling, "Can you hear me?" I just couldn't move.
That's all I can remember. I'm sorry.
That's all right. If you remember anything else, you can give me a call. We arrested a suspect at the time of the accident, and he has been charged for impaired driving causing bodily harm. I suggest that when you get home, you get in touch with Public Safety Victim Services. I'm sure you'll find them very helpful. Thank you. You're welcome.
I know my friends and my mom thought I was acting strange, but I couldn't help it. I just wanted to be left alone.
I spent almost a month in the hospital. I was really happy to be going home.
I couldn't stop thinking about that day in the car with my uncle. I finally told my mom. She was shocked. And then she was quiet, like she was really thinking. She said, "Julie, we need to report this to the police."
Hello?
Parce que ma mère est...
Yes?
This is Jane Perkins calling from Public Safety Victim Services. I'm just returning your call. I understand that you were in an accident and that someone has been charged.
Yes?
How are you doing?
Good.
Well, I don't have any new information for you right now, but I wanted you to be aware of the services that we provide.
What kind of services?
Well, there are several ways that we help victims of crime. If you and your parents would like to meet with me, we could discuss what I could do to help you, like referring you to counseling. It's not unusual for victims of crime to have a hard time dealing with what happened to them. And I can also tell you about, things that we can do to help prepare you for court.
I was having second thoughts. I didn't want the whole world to know. Maybe what happened wasn't really such a big deal.
What your uncle did to you was wrong. Julie, we need to tell the police. We don't want this to happen again. Okay?
Thank you. That was Jane from Victim Services. She just called to let us know that the man who was charged was in court today. Can you believe he pled not guilty?
No way.
Yeah. Jane said that you'll receive a subpoena to go to court. This is a piece of paper that tells you when and where we need to be in court. A police officer will deliver the subpoena, and Jane wants us to call her when it comes.
I couldn't believe I had reported my uncle to the police. I knew that meant there was no turning back. I kept thinking, what if I have to go to court? I called my friend and I told her everything. She suggested that I talk to Public Safety Victim Services. She said someone there really helped her cousin. My mom called and talked to a victim services worker named Jane. She suggested we come in right away.
Peter Bradley.
Yeah, that's me.
I'm Officer LeBlanc. I have a subpoena for you to appear as a witness in court. Have you been in contact with victim services?
Yes, they told me this was coming.
Okay, do you have
I
any...
called victim services and told Jane that I had received a subpoena. She said she wanted me to go with my parents to meet with her and the Crown Prosecutor to prepare me for the trial. She explained that the Crown Prosecutor is not my lawyer. His job is to present the evidence and show why the person should be found guilty.
I didn't know what to expect, but Jane seemed nice.
I know that this has been a traumatic experience for you, and I know it took a lot of courage for you to report your uncle to the police, but it was the right thing to do. Julie, I need to tell you that your uncle was charged today with sexual assault. He pled not guilty, which means there will be a trial.
I really can't do this.
What you're feeling is completely normal, and I would feel the same way too. But I'm gonna be here with you every step of the way.
Hey. Hey. Exercises. Good.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Three kids? That's brutal. He should have known. How would he feel if some drunk hit his kid?
We can tell the Crown Prosecutor that you're concerned about seeing your uncle in court. He can ask the judge to allow you to testify in court from behind a screen or in another room using closed-circuit television. You can also ask to have a support person sit with you while you testify. Now, as far as the paper is concerned, seeing that you're under 18, the court will automatically order the media not to give out any information that will identify you. It's called a publication ban.
I was feeling nervous. The trial was just a week away. And for some reason, I was feeling almost sorry for the guy who hit me. More for his kids, I guess.
Here you go, Peter.
Thank you.
Do you have any other questions for me?
No. It was good to finally meet Jane.
The Crown Prosecutor's waiting for us?
She took us to meet the Crown Prosecutor. He went over the statement I gave to the police.
I was having such a hard time dealing with everything. I couldn't sleep, and I was nervous about going to court. Jane recommended that I go to counseling. My mom didn't know any counselors and was concerned about the cost. Jane said that victim services could cover some therapy sessions. My mom was relieved. She signed a consent form, and before we left, Jane set up an appointment for me with a counselor for the next week.
After meeting with the Crown Prosecutor, Jane showed us the courtroom and where each person sits.
Now the sheriff will be here to let people in and out and to ensure everyone's safety. The judge is going to ask you to swear to tell the truth. Now the Crown Prosecutor will ask you your name and your address and what you remember about the day that you were hit. Then he'll present all the evidence that the police gathered in their investigation, and he'll call other witnesses. They'll be trying to explain to the judge why the person is guilty. The defense lawyer will also ask you questions, but he or she will try to prove that there's not enough evidence to find the person guilty. The judge will listen to all of the evidence and then decide if the accused person is guilty or not and what the sentence will be.
Jane wanted to meet with my mom alone. They wanted to figure out who would be my support person in court. They decided that it would be better if Jane did it because my mom and my uncle were too closely related. That was okay with me. I suspect they also wanted to talk about how I was really doing.
After meeting with Jane and the Crown Prosecutor, I felt pretty confident about testifying. Since then, Jane called 3 times to tell me that the trial has been postponed. Now she's saying another 3 weeks? I just want it to be over, but it's out of my hands.
Hello?
Hi, Julie. It's Jane. I just wanted to touch base with you and see how you're doing.
I'm doing okay.
So far, the trial date hasn't changed, but it does often get postponed.
Okay.
How's counseling going?
All right.
Well, I look forward to seeing you next week, and in the meantime, just give me a call if you have any questions.
Okay. Jane set up a meeting with the Crown Prosecutor. The Crown showed me the videotape statement that I'd made to the police. It was hard to watch. It seems so long ago now. But it helped me remember some of the details I had put out of my mind.
I know that was really hard to watch, but now I'd like to take some time to tell you about what's going to happen when we get in the courtroom. So first I'm going to ask you your name and your address, and then to tell me what happened. The defense lawyer is going to ask you some questions too. If you don't understand a question, tell the judge and ask for it to be repeated. Listen carefully, tell the truth, and keep your answers brief. If you don't know how to answer a question, just say so, it's okay.
The Crown Prosecutor said he would ask the judge to let me testify using closed-circuit TV from a special room outside the courtroom. Then Jane took us there to have a look and show us how it works.
I didn't have my hopes up. The whole thing might be delayed again.
Okay. Thank you. It's normal to feel nervous, Peter. All you have to do is tell the truth.
Okay.
Peter Bradley, do you swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Take the stand, please.
Can you please state your name and address?
It was hard to talk in front of those people. I just kept looking at Jane whenever I could.
And can you tell me what happened?
I was coming home from a basketball game around 7:30, and then I heard a car behind me.
So you heard a car, and you're certain it was a car?
I'm sorry, I don't understand the question. A couple of times, I wasn't sure what the lawyer was asking me.
You said you were walking.
I remember the Crown saying, if you don't understand a question, ask for it to be repeated. I did, and somehow I got through it. Andrew Fisher was found guilty, and that didn't feel as good as I thought it would. But the worst part was over.
You did well, Peter. Now I want you and your family to think about doing victim impact statements. These are written statements that let you and your family tell the court exactly how the crime affected you. And the judge will consider these statements and other things when deciding on a sentence. Okay? Just take this with you and think about it. And I'd like to meet with you next week and talk more about it then.
Thank you.
The trial had been postponed a couple of times, but it looked like today was the day. I was nervous, afraid my mind would go blank or I'd get my story mixed up or something.
Just tell the truth, Julie. And let the judge know when you don't understand a question. Keep your answers brief, and I'll be right there beside you. Jane Perkins. Julie's here. Okay. It's time for us to go up to the closed circuit room.
I had just got my beginner's license, but my mom didn't really have time to take me driving. I was glad I wasn't in the courtroom, and that Jane was with me. When my uncle offered to teach me to drive, I was really excited.
Had you ever been alone with your uncle before?
He used to babysit when I was... I tried to remember what Jane told me. I answered the questions as best as I could, and before I knew it, it was over.
Okay. I'll let them know. Thank you. Julie, the judge found your uncle not guilty. It's not your fault. There just wasn't enough evidence, and it doesn't mean that the judge didn't believe you.
I just want to go home.
I'm going to stay in contact with you, Julie. Call me if you need to talk, okay? The counselor will let me know when Julie's sessions are done, and I'll stay in touch with you to follow up and make sure everything's okay.
I did write up a victim impact statement. It described how the whole thing affected my life. You know, how frustrating it was being in a wheelchair, going through physiotherapy, learning how to walk again.
My parents wrote victim impact statements too. They wrote about how worried they were about me and all the extra costs for my physio and medication. Jane helped all of us.
Peter, you've chosen to read your victim impact statement here today.
Yes, Your Honor. We decided to read our statements at the sentencing hearing. It kind of felt good.
Go ahead then, please.
As a result of the accident, I was in the hospital for 4 weeks. I couldn't move my legs and I was in a lot of pain. When I went home, I was in a wheelchair for 6 weeks. I received a lot of physiotherapy because I had to learn to walk all over again. It was very frustrating for me.
I was disappointed, and it took me a while to understand that what I did was important, even though he wasn't found guilty. I was happy the whole thing was over. I did continue with the counseling for a little while. It helped me move on.
Andrew Fisher was sentenced to jail. Jane helped my parents get registered for updates on when he'd be released. My parents and I appreciated everything Victim Services did for us. Jane was great. She really saw us through the whole thing from beginning to end.
Jane and I stayed in touch, even after the trial, which was really nice. I sent her a card to thank her for all she did. Life eventually got back to normal, just like Mom said it would. Hey John, I was sorry to hear what happened to you. You definitely did the right thing by going to the police. I know, it's not an easy thing to do. I'm sending you the link to Public Safety Victim Services. Check it out, and when you call, ask for Jane. She helped me a lot.